The sky over London darkened unnaturally on that fateful June evening, a thick shroud of clouds swallowing the last rays of sunlight as if the heavens themselves mourned. Inside Buckingham Palace, a chilling silence gripped the corridors, broken only by the frantic whispers of aides rushing to the king's chambers. King Charles III, the steadfast monarch who had reigned since 2022, lay motionless, his once commanding presence reduced to a pale, lifeless shell. His sudden death, attributed to a mysterious illness that baffled even the royal physicians, sent a seismic shock through the nation. The official report spoke of an unknown toxin, its origins untraceable, fueling whispers of foul play. But the true horror began at midnight, when the ancient ravens of the Tower of London, guardians of the realm's stability, took flight. Their cawing a discordant wail that echoed across the Thames, a portent of doom foretold in forgotten legends. Westminster Abbey the next morning became a theater of grief and dread. The funeral bell tolled with a relentless, mournful rhythm, its sound piercing the hearts of the gathered royals. The coffin, draped in black velvet and crowned with the imperial state crown, glistened under the dim light, a stark reminder of mortality. Prince William stood rigid at the forefront, his navy suit a stark contrast to the pallor of his face, tears streaming silently down his cheeks as he stared at the father he had both loved and feared. Duchess Catherine, beside him, clutched her veiled hat, her sobs muffled, but her eyes wide with terror, haunted by a nightmare that had plagued her the night before. Prince Harry, watching from a distance via a live feed in California, felt a cold shiver. His estrangement from the family now felt like a divine warning, his heart pounding with a mix of guilt and dread. The ceremony unfolded with a ghostly precision. The Dean of Westminster's voice trembled as he delivered the opening prayer. The Archbishop of Canterbury's reading from the Book of Common Prayer sounded like a dirge, and the choir's rendition of Requiem Aeternam sent chills down every spine. But the atmosphere thickened with unease as reports filtered in. The raven's departure, the sudden wilting of the palace gardens, and a blood-red moon rising over Windsor Castle. Courtiers exchanged fearful glances, their minds racing back to a medieval Talia curse laid upon the Windsor line by a spurned lover of King Edward VII, vowing the dynasty's ruin should its blood be tainted. William's hands clenched into fists, his mind screaming against the superstition, while Catherine whispered, "What if it's true?" The lowering of the coffin into the vault, accompanied by the last post, drew a collective wail from the congregation. But the true terror lay ahead, a secret that would unravel the monarchy's very foundation. Note: as the coffin descended, a single raven feather drifted down, landing at William's feet, a silent omen that made his blood run cold. The days following the funeral were a descent into a nightmare from which the royal family could not awaken. Kensington Palace buzzed with a frenetic energy, aides scrambling to contain the growing panic as reports of the raven's exodus spread. William, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights, convened an emergency meeting in the crimson-draped council chamber, his voice a strained command. "We need answers now." Catherine sat beside him, her hands trembling as she clutched a cup of tea, her mind replaying the vivid nightmare of a shadowy figure whispering, "The crown will fall." Harry, connected via a shaky video link from Montecito, felt a knot tighten in his stomach, his isolation amplifying his fear that this was a sign to stay away, his voice barely audible. "I can't come back to this." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Sir Reginald Harrow, the palace's elderly historian, who burst into the meeting with a leather-bound tome, his face pale as death. "It's the curse," he rasped, flipping to a yellowed page adorned with a crude sketch of a raven and a bleeding crown. The text, written in 1901, detailed a jilted lover of Edward VII, a Scottish noblewoman named Elspeth Macrae, who, after being cast aside, invoked a dark ritual to doom the Windsor line. Should the blood be impure or the heir unworthy? The prophecy read, "The ravens shall flee, and the throne shall crumble to dust." The room fell silent, the weight of the words sinking in. William's jaw tightened, his mind rejecting the notion, but Catherine's gasp confirmed her growing dread. Harry, on the screen, muttered, "This can't be real," yet the fear in his eyes betrayed him. Further investigation revealed chilling evidence. Palace security footage captured the ravens abandoning their perches at 2:13 a.m., their wings a black blur against the moonlit sky. Gardeners reported the sudden death of ancient rose bushes, their petals falling like tears. A royal astronomer noted the blood-red moon, an astronomical anomaly unseen in centuries. The curse's signs were undeniable, and the timing Charles's mysterious death suggested a fulfillment of the prophecy. Whispers among the staff spoke of a tainted bloodline, perhaps linked to Charles's scandalous past with Diana, or an even older secret buried in the family tree. William slammed his fist on the table, his voice a roar. "This is nonsense. I won't let it destroy us." But deep within, a seed of doubt took root, his father's sudden end gnawing at his resolve. Catherine's nightmares intensified, each night bringing visions of her children, George, Charlotte, and Louis trapped in a crumbling palace, their cries echoing as the crown shattered. She awoke each time in a cold sweat, clinging to William, her whisper a plea, "We have to protect them." Harry, tormented by his own dreams of a raven pecking at his heart, confided in Meghan, his voice breaking, "Maybe I was right to leave." The isolation he had chosen now felt like a shield, yet it deepened his loneliness. The royal family stood on the brink of collapse, the curse a specter haunting their every move, its power growing with each omen. The nation watched, gripped by a mix of fascination and fear, as the monarchy teetered on the edge of an abyss. The nights that followed were a descent into a psychological hell for the royal family, each member ensnared by the curse's dark tendrils. In Kensington Palace, Catherine tossed and turned, her sleep a battlefield of nightmares. The latest vision was the most harrowing yet their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, standing in the ruins of Buckingham Palace, their faces pale and tear-streaked as a shadowy figure loomed, its voice a guttural whisper, "The crown is cursed, and your blood will pay." She awoke with a scream, her nightgown soaked with sweat, her heart pounding as she stumbled to William's side. He held her, his own face etched with exhaustion, but his voice was a determined growl. "I'll fight this, for you, for them." Yet the fear in her eyes mirrored his own unspoken terror that the curse might claim their future. William's days were a blur of duty and denial. During the day he met with advisors, his commands sharp and unyielding, "Find a way to disprove this madness." But at night, alone in his study, he stared at a portrait of his father, the man whose death had unleashed this nightmare. Doubts crept in. Had Charles's illness been the curse's first strike? His hands shook as he poured a whiskey, the liquid trembling in the glass, a reflection of his crumbling resolve. Catherine's nightmares became his own, her cries echoing in his mind, fueling a desperate vow to defy the prophecy, though the weight of it threatened to crush him. Far across the ocean, Harry's isolation deepened into a prison of his own making. In Montecito, the sprawling estate felt like a fortress against the chaos, but the curse followed him. His dreams were filled with ravens circling a blood-red throne, their beaks tearing at his flesh, a voice hissing, "You escaped, but the curse knows you." He awoke gasping, Meghan's arms around him, her voice a soothing balm. "You don't have to go back." Yet the guilt gnawed at him. Had his departure weakened the family, inviting this doom? He avoided calls from William, his silence a shield, but each raven sighting in his Gardena, rare occurrence in California, sent his heart racing, a sign he could no longer ignore. The public, too, was ensnared by the curse's grip. Reports of strange occurrences flooded the media, crops failing in Windsor, a sudden plague of blackbirds over London, and a child in Yorkshire claiming to see a ghostly figure in royal robes. The tabloids ran wild with headlines like, "Curse claims king," and "Windsor's doomed." Protests erupted outside the palace, some demanding the monarchy's abolition, others praying for deliverance. Inside, the family fractured. Anne, ever the stoic, tried to rally them, her voice a command, "We face this together." But William's refusal to acknowledge the curse clashed with Catherine's growing belief, while Harry's absence fueled whispers of cowardice. The monarchy teetered, its foundations shaken by a force older than time, each member wrestling with their own demons as the curse tightened its hold. The search for salvation led the royal family to Balmoral, the Scottish retreat where secrets whispered through the winds. Sir Reginald Harrow, driven by a mix of duty and obsession, uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the castle, its stone walls damp with centuries of silence. Inside, he found a chest bound with iron, its lock rusted but yielding to his trembling hands. The contents were a treasure trove of dread-ancient scrolls, a dagger stained with dried blood, and a journal penned by Elspeth Macrae herself. The journal's pages, brittle and yellowed, detailed her curse, a ritual involving the blood of a royal lover, cast in 1901 after Edward VII's betrayal, vowing the Windsor line's ruin if its blood was ever tainted by deceit. Harrow's voice shook as he read aloud. "The ravens will flee, the land will wither, and the crown will shatter unless the blood is cleansed." William, summoned to Balmoral, stared at the journal, his disbelief warring with a growing dread. "This is madness," he muttered, but the evidence was overwhelming. The dagger matched historical records. The scrolls bore royal seals. Catherine, her nightmares now a constant torment, clutched the journal, her voice a whisper. "It's real, William. We have to stop it." Harry, arriving unannounced, added to the tension, his eyes red from the flight. "I couldn't stay away," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not if this kills us all." The reunion was fraught. William's glare softened but held resentment, while Catherine's embrace of Harry was tinged with relief and fear. The scrolls outlined a ritual to break the curse, requiring a descendant of Edward VII to offer a drop of blood at Stonehenge under a blood-red moon, a rare celestial event due in 3 days. Harrow warned, "It must be voluntary, or the curse will strengthen." William's resolve hardened. He would perform it, to protect his family and the crown. But Catherine's plea stopped him. "What if it takes you too? Let Harry help." The suggestion ignited a firestorm. William roared, "He abandoned us." Harry retorted, "I'm here now, don't let pride destroy us." Anne, stepping in, brokered a truce. "Both of you or neither. The curse doesn't care for your quarrels." The public, sensing the stakes, flooded social media with number curse of the crown, some praying, others mocking. Protesters camped outside Balmoral, their chants a mix of hope and despair. The media speculated wildly, would the royals resort to pagan rites? Inside, the family prepared, the tension palpable. William's determination clashed with his fear. Catherine's love for her children drove her to support the ritual, and Harry's return offered a fragile hope. The curse loomed, its power growing with each passing hour, as the royal bloodline faced its darkest test. Note: the journal's final entry, written in Elspeth's frantic hand, warned of a blood price, its ink seeming to glisten with a fresh crimson hue as Harrow read it, sending a collective shiver through the room. The blood-red moon rose over Stonehenge on the third night, its eerie glow bathing the ancient stones in a hellish light. The royal family, cloaked in black, gathered at the site, the air thick with tension and the scent of damp earth. William, his face a mask of resolve, held the dagger from Balmoral, its blade glinting with a sinister edge. Catherine stood beside him, her hands clasped around their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, her eyes glistening with tears as she whispered, "For them." Harry, his presence a shock to the assembly, joined them, his voice steady, "For father and for us." Anne oversaw the ritual, her military precision a stark contrast to the mystical setting, while Harrow chanted from the scrolls, his voice a trembling invocation. The ritual began with a solemn procession around the stones, the family's footsteps echoing like a drumbeat of fate. William pricked his finger, a single drop of blood falling onto the altar stone, followed by Harry's, their shared act a bridge over their rift. But as Harrow intoned the final words, the ground trembled, a raven's cry piercing the night. A shadowy figure, Elspeth's ghost, her eyes burning with rage, materialized, her voice a shriek. "The blood is tainted, the crown falls." The stones glowed red, and a vision assaulted them. Charles's death replayed, a shadowy hand slipping poison into his tea. The family staggered, their screams lost in the wind. William, fueled by desperation, seized the dagger and slashed his palm, offering more blood. "Take mine, spare them," he cried, collapsing as the ground shook violently. Harry rushed to his side, tears streaming. "No, Will, not alone." Their blood mingled on the stone and the figure vanished, the moon fading to silver. The ravens returned to the tower, their cawing a sign of reprieve. The curse was broken, But at a cost, William lay weakened, his strength drained, while Harry's embrace held him up. The aftermath was a whirlwind. The public hailed it as a miracle, number curse broken, trending worldwide, though skeptics cried manipulation. William, recovering slowly, addressed the nation from a wheelchair. "We faced the darkness and prevailed. Catherine's tears turned to joy, her children safe, while Harry's return solidified a fragile peace. Yet whispers lingered: had the curse truly ended, or merely paused? The royal family, scarred but united, stood on a precipice, their future a mystery wrapped in the shadows of Stonehenge." Note: as the ritual ended, a single drop of William's blood remained on the stone, glowing faintly, a silent warning of a curse that might yet return.